To order the meeting of the Fitchburg Board of Public Works for June 21st, 2021. Attending tonight, we have a full quorum. Myself, Dave Wilborn, Kim Lobdell, Michael Ganetsky, and Jim Wheeler is via Zoom. Okay. The first order of business is public appearances for non-agenda items. And we have Kathy and Jerry Neitzel that would like to speak about stormwater runoff.
Thank you. Thank you for the council's time. This has actually been a long ongoing issue, as you know, and it seems to keep getting not as much attention as we would hope it has. And the biggest issue is that stormwater runoff at the back of our property, our neighbors have actually built up an area at the back of the property that's interfering.
My apologies. Can you give your address for us as well?
Where you are, where you live.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Jerry and Kathy Neitzel, we're at 2482 South Sain Road.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, and it's actually, we had a plot map provided to us by a former member of Public Works that shows that the ground level has been raised 18 to 20 inches in that area, and it's interfering with the stormwater runoff. So that backs up into our property, obviously causing the backside of our property to be constantly wet. It's a mosquito issue, obviously, a wet issue. We've even had someone reach out to us from Public Works, or from zoning actually, saying we needed to fix ruts in our yard, and we can't fix the ruts if it's wet all the time. So I just would like to try and address the council to put more pressure on that and get more work done on that issue. I don't think we're the only people in the Fitchburg area that are suffering from this either. But it's been a long time issue for us, years, and that's why we wanted to bring it again to the council's attention.
Jerry, did you want to say anything?
She pretty much summed it up.
Okay.
Just, I'd like it taken care of so I can get things leveled out. I can't move mud.
So we heard about this issue at least 6 months ago, maybe more. Bill, can we put a date down? Could maybe, I know you got a lot on the plate, but that we could say, we've asked Bill, city engineer, to propose a draft guide that would provide us some guidance in how we resolve these issues. And we have not given him enough time to get it done. Could we say a month from now, Bill? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think so. July 17th meeting, I could have something back.
All right.
And just for my knowledge, is the water kind of flowing from the north to the south or from the south to the north?
It kind of goes from the north to the south.
Okay.
And what happened is they built it up. It was draining. Mike Denson leveled everything out and it was draining. And then I had couple dump truck loads of dirt that I was going to use to level out some areas. And Miss Algiers asked if she could have a couple wheelbarrows, and I went back there in a great big dump truck load. It was gone, the back half of it, and I didn't see it, and that's when she built it up so it doesn't even drain.
Yeah. And I
The thing
know,
I'm concerned is they keep saying, well, it's private property, but it's storm water runoff.
Yeah, well, we brought it to the attention of the zoning or Public Works before. We had been told at one point that if they were going to be changing, because it is stormwater runoff, it's not just our private property, that if they were going to be changing that area, they should have gotten permits, which of course they never did. And as we said, it's just an ongoing and pretty contentious issue, to say the least. But for us, it's the inconvenience of having everything from our garages back is mud. And we keep dumping mulch back there to try and soak it up and try and reduce it, and it just, every time it rains, we have standing water, which at this time of the year, or of course not so much this year, but this time of the year, then you get the mosquito pit back there, and it's horrible. I mean, it's at the point where the deer like it because they come back there and drink the water. So, you know, we're providing a resource for them, but for us, it's very inconvenient, to say the least, and a hassle, and somewhat of a, medical issue. I'm actually allergic to mosquito bites. So, not anaphylactic, thankfully, but yeah, it's a problem.
Dave or Kim, any questions for the Neitzel's?
Nightsoles.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Entschuldigen Sie.
So it's just because an adjacent property has built up before they did that, the stormwater drained through there, is that correct?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
And I don't know if you are familiar with Todd Gill. Before he passed away, he came down and kind of gave him ideas what to take care of it so the water would flow. And he said, you either have to make a swell or put a drainage tube in or something. And she just like, I am not doing that.
Yeah,
Okay.
And he used to work for Bruce Company, so he knew landscaping.
yeah.
And I know we've discussed on this board as well, and Kim, I think this was maybe before your and Jim's time, but we've had policies kind of put before us about, the residential homes and making sure that the rainwater runoff doesn't go from one lot to the other. And, I think a lot of that really did focus in on, where you have houses that are kind of close together and, they're not changing the grade. It's just, what do you do with the downspouts? Can you put them in your neighbor's window well or,
That's the other thing is they got their downspouts pointing towards our property off their garage and house.
Okay, so that may be a good also kind of starting point, because I know that we've looked at those policies before, this board.
We're not that close to each other, but it's
It's that discharge that's
Yes.
happening, and if you
it's
kind
also
of.
adding to the problem.
Exactly.
So thank you for bringing that up. It's also, yes, since they built their new garage, it's even worsened that too.
So I would encourage you, maybe if you want to watch on the 17th, the meeting, we'll be discussing, we won't have a resolution for you on your issue on July 17th, but we will
Is that a Saturday?
no, it must be July 19th.
It should be a Monday.
July 19th, Monday the
Yeah,
19th.
thank you. I
17th.
only know because it's my birthday weekend, so.
Oh. So the 19th, we won't have a resolution to your issue. We will be discussing the guide is all we'll be doing.
To get moving on the issue.
Yes.
Good.
All right. So anything else?
I don't think so.
All right, thank you for your
Thank you for your
patience.
time. We appreciate it.
All right, next on the agenda, we have approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the June 7th, 2021 Board of Public Works minutes?
I so move we approve June 7th, 2021 meetings.
Moved by Wilborn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Granetsky. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of approving the June 7th Board of Public Works minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, review items, review of utility April P-card purchases and May checks. I will open up the board to ask questions when I get my computer back on here. Anyone, feel free to jump in.
At some point, Bill, this is just no questions about the actual invoices themselves. It would be great to see, for the MMSD spend, like how that's changed over the past few years.
Is that the $105,000 one?
I was gonna say it's the $569,000 one.
Okay.
It looks like that's our quarterly MMSD rate.
Okay, yep.
Okay. And no rush on that. It's just interesting to see how those change over time, because we see these in little snapshots.
Anyone else have any questions for Bill on these? I did not have any.
Nope.
Okay. Thank you. Easy night, Bill. Easy night. All right. All right, so next on to agenda item 5, a report from the department head, Mr. Bill Balke.
Yeah, I guess I don't have too much to report. I've been on vacation this week, or last week, so I'm just catching up today. Let's see, I saw Fish Hatchery Road was paved, or starting to get paved. East Sherrill Parkway just got paved, so we're finishing up a couple projects there. The water main project out on East Clayton, or West Clayton, and the water main is complete, and they're doing the roads out there on West Clayton. We have our projects that were bid out for tonight. We got the resurfacing project, the water main project that we're out for bid, and looking for approvals on those. Subdivision work, Fahey Fields Phase 5 is subject to start this week pending an easement that they have to get from Charter. We just are trying to get that one completed in the right format, but they're looking to start either this week or early next week once we get that easement. And, gosh, what else? The other two subdivisions are out on Crescent Crossing. That one's, I don't know what's going on out there. I haven't been through that area today, so it's, I know that they were getting close to paving, and they were paving last week, possibly, out there in Stoner Prairie, so that one's getting close, and we're just moving along.
Bill, one of the things I noticed along Lacey Road, it looks like they just paved what I'm assuming is a multi-use path along Lacey Road, and I noticed that there's part of it is a big dip, and that's filled with concrete, and the rest is asphalt. Mm-hmm. Do you know why that would be?
Yeah, that's there's a pond that's just on the other side of that, and that's the overflow for the pond. So we build that in concrete. It's a concrete weir through that area. It just dips down to allow the pond to overflow out of there.
Okay, and the reason why it's concrete is just so it stays intact?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. It looked a little, I'm like, why are they pouring concrete in that big of a dip and then asphalting the rest? Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Any other questions for Bill? All right. Thank you, Bill.
All right.
Seeing none, we're going to move into our agenda items. So we have the public hearing for the Greenfield, the water main extension here at 6 o'clock. So that's posted at 6. We have to wait till 6 to start that meeting. Any of you that would like to speak, please fill out one of the forms in back like this and bring it up if you'd like to speak. We're going to change our agenda here a little bit and take up a few items, and then we'll come back to this at 6 o'clock. So do we have a motion to amend our agenda?
Yes, I'll move that we go to items 7D, E, F, and J before the meeting, whatever we can get done before 6 o'clock.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So first, 7 Delta, Resolution R 12621, resolution authorizing approval of First Amendment to the fiber license agreement with SuperNet Communications. And I think I know the background, but I'll let Bill give us the background here and the change in this agreement.
We do have a motion?
We have a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, moved by Lobdell. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Granetsky. I'm sorry, Bill. Thank you.
All right. With the Fish Hatchery Road project between, where are we at here? McCoy Road and, what's our northern road up there? The belt line, essentially. We installed some additional conduits along the median there for fiber optics for traffic signals, lighting future circuits, and we also had some spare conduit in there for other utilities that could lease or use that line. We came to an agreement with SuperNet to install a fiber line through there for future city use. That we're going to lease some of their lines for them using our conduit free of cost. And this agreement here, we didn't specifically spell out in the original agreement how the management and the maintenance of that conduit and pull boxes were going to be done. So this agreement just amends the original agreement that spells that out specifically. Is essentially what is going to happen is if there's any damages to the line itself, SuperNet is going to pay for those damages, And if there's any conduit that needs to be repaired, the city is responsible for repairing the conduit. So basically, that's what the agreement comes down to.
I would note part of that agreement, the city received, is it 6 fibers or 6 pairs to use for our own use as part of this agreement. Anyone have any questions on this?
No, just thank you for staying on top of this and getting this in writing. This is always little detail-y stuff that sometimes gets missed and misinterpreted if something does come up. So thanks for getting this together.
Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 12621 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, Resolution R 114-21, approving contract with Field and Stream Restorations LLC for 2021 through 2023, Harlan Hills and Ashbourne Pond Ecological Services. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Wheeler, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Lobdell. Bill, we had our first contractor fell down on this. Is that fair assessment or did not perform?
Yeah, they failed to perform to the standards that they promised. In 4 years into the contract, we terminated their contract with us. So we went out for bid for a new contract, and Field and Stream was our selected contractor. We've worked with them on a number of projects throughout the city, and they were the second low bid to the previous contract that we had. So their plan is a good plan. It's a 3-year plan that we have to get the vegetation under control and growing correctly. And they're really great to work with and communicate well with the neighborhoods. So that's one of the things that we really need to do is just have that open communication between the adjoining neighbors and the project itself.
You know, I gotta admit, I didn't go over and look at these ponds a lot. Are there a lot of invasive or, just none of the species we hope to have planted around the pond grew? Would that be a fair assessment? Is it full of thistles or,
It had a lot of invasives that came back. When they treated it, it wasn't a full treatment. There was some left over. It just was, in general, it just didn't get to where we needed it to be after 4 years of control. So we're starting over with the new contractor and feel that this will be well under control the first couple of years, and the third year would be a good establishment period.
So the goal would be if we get the plants that we wanted growing, then it should be less maintenance on
Right.
top. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
So was is this cost higher than what the original contract was?
I'd have to check on that, but the difference was the first one was a 5-year contract, and this is a 3-year contract. So I'd have to check the comparison between the 2 years or the two contracts. I didn't check that.
Okay. So I know when we have contracts with certain entities, if we don't perform and they have to hire someone else and it costs more, then it's up to us to pay the difference between those. I don't know if this contract was written that way or if there's any kind of consideration along that line. And if it's, insignificant or whatever, then since they were the second low bidder, I'm guessing it was a little bit higher, but, if it's not substantial, but the numbers that we have here are still within the original budget that you have established?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Bill, you could just email the board, what the difference might be or on the. Any other questions? Okay, we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 114-21, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next, 7 Julia, Resolution R 136-21. A resolution accepting 2020 Compliance Maintenance Annual Report for the wastewater collection system. Oh, I skipped F, I'm sorry. I crossed the wrong one off. Thank you, Kim. Thank you. Next, Resolution 7 Foxtrot, Resolution R 124-21. A resolution releasing the public sanitary sewer easement, accepting a public water main easement on Certco properties. Do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve R-124-21.
Moved by Wilborn, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Granetsky. Discussion. Bill, I guess the question I'd have, we no longer needed the sanitary because of something we put up along Verona Road. As I read through, I wasn't quite sure, didn't quite make out why we didn't need the one anymore and the other one, we needed.
Yeah, that's correct. Tracy would know.
Okay,
She'll explain it if you want.
come on up, Tracy.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Tracy.
So the sanitary easement that we had served not only Circle, but Harder Paper. And when Spoke and Sprocket went through, Harder Paper was demolished, taken down, because Spoke went right through it. And then Circle still was multiple parcels, and so we continued to carry that easement. But now with Circle combining all of their parcels into one parcel, the only property it services now is Circle. So we no longer need a public sanitary main to service them.
What will the water main, what will that serve that we're replacing it with?
So the water main the easement that we're asking for the water main is along Verona Road, and that used to be, Serco is acquiring land that used to be DOT right away. And so with that, now that it's gonna be privately owned, we need an easement for our water main that will be adjacent to that property.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Any questions on that?
No.
No. All right. Call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 124-21, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, Resolution 7, Julia, Resolution R 136-21, a resolution accepting the 2020 Compliance Maintenance Annual Report for the wastewater collection system of the city of Fitchburg, Wisconsin. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Kim, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Wheeler. Okay. All right. So we have the report. I read through it. I guess first I'll ask, Bill, is this an annual, it's annual compliance requirement?
Correct. The DNR requires us to assess our sanitary sewer system every year for the health of the maintenance, the infrastructure, and the financing. So we have to do this evaluation every year, submitted to the DNR, indicating that we're in compliance with everything.
Thank you.
Are there any substantial changes from last year?
No.
I just point out, I think most people know, but Fitchburg, our wastewater collection system, our sewage is treated by Madison Metropolitan Sewage District, out on the belt line, and so we do not own our own treatment plant as many cities do. All right. Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 136-21, signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Bill, what would be your pleasure here? We can either recess till 6?
That would be great, because I don't have a battery charger and
Okay.
I'm really low.
So we will recess for about a little over 5 minutes, and then we'll start the public hearing on the water main extension here at 6 o'clock. We are in recess. Back into session here. Again, we have the public hearing on the Greenfield Water Main Extension. So what we'll be doing here is, a few more pages here. Is I'd like to have Bill or Tracy come up and explain the project first. I'm not sure which of you would like, if Tracy, are you? I'll leave it up to you two. And then we'll ask for the public to come up if you've registered to speak. We would ask you try to limit yourself to 3 minutes so everyone can get a chance. And we'll also, if you're not registered to speak, that's, I think most of you are registered to speak, so we look forward to hearing from you. So with that, Bill, I'll turn it over to you here to explain the project.
This project includes a water main extension from Aurora Drive to just south of Irish Lane to our well area down at on Hilltop. The extension of the water main is, it will include a 10-inch diameter and 12-inch diameter water main extension. We have a master plan for our entire water system that lays out the needs for the community. And as roads get reconstructed or resurfaced, we look at that master plan to make sure that if there's any improvements that need to go down in the next 20 to 25 years, that we get those in so that we don't have to tear the roadway up again in the near future. This was one of those projects that we identified in the master plan as an extension down to the lower wells in that area, the Greenfield area. And what this does is it provides redundancy for the project, for the water system, better water quality, pressure flows as they're connected with our other wells in the system. So with the project that we have there, and any properties that are adjacent to there, we will provide a service to those lots and a connection. And our current policy is to assess the properties for that benefit. They will either pay a per lot charge based on our plant value, which is the average over, I think it's 10 years of our water main and installation costs. And that ended up being $6,840. Yep, $6,840. And then there's other charges on that assessment report that are actual cost, which is based on the actual cost of the project divided by the total length of accessible property on both sides of the road. And that ended up being $103.96. So with those lots, they can be subdivided into other lots, or they've got a different type of zoning where, it's not a residential lot. So they will, pay that full cost when the property is sold, subdivided. There's a few conditions on there with a little asterisk that says what those conditions are. So that's how we came up with the assessment. It was our bid price. We divided that out by the number of feet that was accessible, and that was the actual cost. Some of the lots do have a residential unit on them, so they'll pay a plant value right now. And then in the future, if it's sold, subdivided, built on, then they would pay that differential cost that would be deferred up until that time. So I think that's it in a nutshell. Tracy's probably got a lot more insight onto the details of things, but we're looking to get this project bid completed before November, before our paving date ends. And it's pretty critical on the timing of this, that we get everything done on this timeline that we have set forward for bidding, completion, approval of the contracts. Otherwise, the whole project would be in jeopardy of being completed this year.
I'm going to add one thing, and then we'll start the public comment here. Actually, Tracy, could you come up and tell about the assessment change in 2009 that we discussed?
So prior to 2009, assessments were properties were always assessed based on actual costs. There wasn't this plant value rate that they have now. And in 2009, one of the concerns was, many times when we extend these mains, they're for developments, or it's, there's another purpose for it. And you have all these residential homes along the way that end up paying a higher cost because they have more frontage, and it is typically more expensive if you're tearing up a road to put in the water main. So they evaluated the assessment policy, and they came up with this, what's called a plant value rate and impact fees. The plant value rate that Bill is referring to, which is $6,840 for 100 feet, is based on the average cost of the water main over the last 10 years, and we use what's called a linear regression to figure out what it would be this year, but it's just prorated based on the last 10 years to come up with that number, which is more consistent with what a developer would pay versus what the costs are if you're tearing up a road. And then the other thing they did when they reevaluated the assessment policies, they looked at the length of the properties, and these properties many times in the rural areas are quite long. And so they ended up paying such a high assessment because they would say have 200 feet or whatnot, and so they limited it to 100 feet. So if your property is more than 100 feet, you just pay for 100 feet of assessment. And then they created what's called an impact fee, a water impact fee. And they took the costs that aren't collected through the assessments, the difference between the actual costs and the plant value rates, and they applied them, they put them into what was called an impact fee. And then they added the oversizing costs. So anytime you put in a water main that's larger than 10-inch, the city pays what's called the oversizing cost, the difference between a 10-inch main and the main that actually gets installed. And that cost went into the impact fee. And then the other costs that go into the impact fee are the wells and towers. And then everybody that connects to the water system, when they connect, pays an impact fee. And that impact fee today, for a residential property, the 2021 rate is $1,285. And that rate is adjusted annually. So even in a development, with 100 homes or whatever going in, they pay that $1,285 per each parcel that is being developed.
Could you explain the change between required connection and not that came out of
Sure.
that?
Yep, so prior to 2009, all properties, when water main was extended adjacent to a property, any property adjacent to that water main had to connect. There was no option. Now today you have three options. If you didn't petition for water main, which is the case here for the residential properties, you didn't come to the city and say, I want water main. You can either, if you're able to obtain a private well permit, you can continue to use your private well and you don't have to connect. That's the first option. The second option is you can choose to connect and abandon your well. Or the third option, which we've seen some properties do, they choose to connect and then they choose to keep their well too. And they connect for potable purposes for the home, and then they keep their well for irrigation for outside. So if they're outside spigots, for example, they'll connect to their private well.
That requires a plumbing inspection report delivered to the city also, though.
It does. So for example, for the private well permit, if you opt to continue to use your private well and not connect to water, you do need to save samples taken 2 weeks apart. If you have a septic system, you do need a safe nitrate sample, and then you need your well inspected by a master plumber and show that it meets all current DNR regulations for the well operation permit.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yes.
So,
Dave, I got a question. Could I ask that question? Should I wait?
go ahead, Jim.
So, obviously, there's a lot of people fairly upset about this, to get that big bill. So, my question is, could people have gotten more notice prior to this? I understand it was in the master plan, but, how many people really, keep up with that? So, could there have been more notice for people so that they can kind of, absorb this information?
Before I came down here, I looked at, how long have we been notifying the people along Sain Road of the Greenfield water main extension, and I went all the way back to 2010 and this was in the CIP with letters sent to the neighbors. So can you notify people more? Always, but they have been notified annually for 10 years now about the project.
And what happens if this project is delayed?
If the project is delayed, the water main, we wouldn't install the water main this year because we can't get it paved. And we won't start the project without knowing we can get Sain Road paved after the water main is installed. Right now, the water main project has a completion date of September 15th. And then the resurfacing project has a completion date of October 31st. And it only allows 6 weeks to pave it after the water main is installed. So any delay in awarding it, a month delay, would delay the project until next year.
And I assume that would be higher costs for that.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I assume then costs would probably go up for that project.
Well, it would depend on whether the contractor would be willing to hold their contract to next year and do it for the cost that we bid it out this year, or whether they would say no.
I would add that, it would be completed this year, but I don't believe those assessments would be on this year's tax roll. They would start in 2022,
That is correct. Typically,
if approved, yeah.
Yep, typically when we do a project, the assessments are done in the February timeframe of the following year and then sent out.
Okay.
And notices too for connection, those are typically sent out the following year, because we won't finish this project in time to give people, adequate time to connect before it gets too cold, if that's what they choose to do. So the notices for, whether you're gonna, get a private well permit, connect, or do both, will not go out till next spring.
Okay, thank you, Tracy.
Board have any other questions for Bill or Tracy right now before I open up the public section here? Okay, so what we intend to do, public allowed to speak. We ask you to try to limit it 3 minutes so everyone can get done. And then we'll open it up for, if they have questions for Bill, Tracy, or the board here after that. So I'm going to call in order that they came in here. So Kathy and Jerry, you'd be up first. You'd wish to defer, all right. Okay. We are going to defer you. Not indefinitely, but, okay. Patrick Cheney, 5211 Kitty Crest would like to speak in opposition of the matter, and he has answer questions if needed.
Yeah, Patrick Cheney, 5211 Kitty Crest. I live in the Tarplubic Hills neighborhood, and I am also the president of the East Fitchburg Neighborhood Association. So, and many of the people on the list being assessed here are members of EFNA. Your list and your map was not in the packet, so that's what you just apparently received at the beginning of this meeting. I have not seen that list. I have two main questions to ask here. First question is this project really, this is all about the assessment I'm speaking on here, but is this project really for the benefit of anyone attaching to water, or is this an improvement and a connection in the system here? On the list that you have, I know there are many members of the EFNA, and I had not heard of anyone wanting to connect until I finally found one. The resolution mentions improvement, redundancy, reliability of one system to a second system. The resolution doesn't say anything about new customers. This is a connection of point A to point B to connect the main system of the city to the isolated, separate greenfield system. I've seen this done before quite a few years ago, right around that time of the special assessment meeting back in 2009. Glacier Valley had a connection of a main from one part to another, and the residents along there objected to it. Very recently, West Clayton, I think, is the very same situation. The water main run to connect over to Terra Vesa, but people along West Clayton have to pay for it as it goes along on their road. And there were similar objections on all of those projects, too, about the assessment method. My second main question here, I hope you will answer both of these. Is there some level, either with the water utility engineer or the public works director or the board of public works or Alder Herbst, Alder Wheeler, and the rest of your counterparts on the council that could just decide and vote that this is a system improvement cost, such as a new well or maintenance to a tower, and therefore paid by the utility, not the adjoining non-interested property owners, or decide on some other alternate method. This is especially bad and unreasonable and a stretch to assess several Tarpleywick Hills properties where the back of their property, or in one case, the side, is where this main is passing by. This seems like this is all a way to, I'll use the word gouge, anyone it touches. The money has to come from residents in one way or another, yeah. But either this is a utility infrastructure expense to pay for this, or is there a better way that the city and the utility district can in some way share more of the cost of this project? And I did hear Chair Herbst spoke at the council when this was referred out, commenting on how this was going to be, what did you say, emotional, and what for this kind of action. So is there a better way to do this and solve this for the future instead of this going over and over whenever this kind of thing happens? Thank you.
I would just like to address number 3 for Patrick. It seems on the surface, yeah, why can't we do that? It would fly in the face of 2 members here have been on this board for 28 years, and this is the way the city has chosen to do it. It was chosen before I came on the board, Patrick, and for that time, all those people previously, this is the methodology was chosen, and the people before have paid for that. And so now if I say, all right, I'm a different methodology, I'm going to have 10 times as many people in here demanding a rebate. I know it's not the answer you want to hear, but you know there are some benefits to having it, even if you're not going across fire protection and things like that. So I do not anticipate changing the assessment methodology. I guess in question 3. Question 2, is this for new development? I guess I'll defer that over to Bill and Tracy. Certainly, we have a master plan, and we, without a plan, you fall into chaos. So I believe I've been diligent in making sure we follow the plan, and like I say, when we're going to pave a road, it makes sense to do this at the same time, so that 2 things I think converged here, the road and the water main. Will it potentially feed some new development? Yes, I can't deny that, but I'm not a planning guy either. So, Bill, do you have anything else to add there?
No, I just that we have, developments that are going south from Lacey Road. They're in the planning stages, so in the next 10 to 15 years, we're going to see development coming further south, and we just need to get that water main down there so that we're in a position to serve that development and loop it through and provide better service.
Yeah, I would note the loop. The loop is one of the critical things. When we have, there's people in the city that have water main that they're on a radial system. There's no loop. Their poor water quality is poor. Their fire protection is compromised, and the loop does improve our overall system, which, as the board chair, I have that responsibility to make sure that we have an adequate system, in the city. Patrick, thank
I'm
you.
very aware of, as you say, the paving going at the same time, and I know too there is an improvement in that special assessment committee because many of the EFNA members attended that and saw that change of required to optional. It's just the idea going like along or behind somebody's property and they get hit with this.
There's a couple of properties, maybe Tracy can address that. I'll get that on the table right away, and then we'll move to the next speaker. Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, I think that was my general question, is the frontage, is that back and or front, or just where the connection would be?
So there are Tarplewicki, I think there's 3 of them along there, Wild Heather, and then Curly Oaks Lane, I believe is the other one, if I'm pronouncing it right. There are 6 properties along there that have the option, and a letter has gone out to them last Friday. They can either be a part of this project, and we'll run a service to them if it works best for their property, or when water main is extended in Wild Heather at some point, we could run a service to them through that property and through that project and assess them through that project, through that one. We've given them the option. There's also one at Irish Lane that's been given the option too, depending on, what's best for them. It depends on where their well is and, those costs as well, not just the assessment costs when they make that decision.
And so they won't be required to hook up at this time?
No.
They just have the option of doing so if they choose?
No, but it's important, like the Tarplewicki property and Curly Oaks properties, it's important for them to really think about the decision that they make, because I wouldn't anticipate that the city would run water main up into that subdivision unless they petition for it. And when you petition for water main, it changes all the circumstances. You pay actual costs, and you have to connect. There's no option. Even if you're petitioning, if 50% come to the city and want water, we'll install it. And even if you're one of the 49% that don't want it, you have to connect, and you are paying the actual cost to install it. And in the Wild Heather subdivision, they have large lots up there. So it's not capped at 100 feet either. So if your frontage is 200, you'll pay 200 feet for actual cost. So it's, there's things to consider, before you make that decision. But they have been given that option. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yep.
Next, I'd like to invite Jay and Annie Miller to speak.
Thank you for your time, council people. My main order of business, I would like to submit a petition for the suspension of this water main extension improvement signed by residents affected. It feels a bit naive after that last response, you answering Pat's questions. It sounds like this is a done deal. It's going through. I too as well would like to, okay, I too, I as well would like to see this as an infrastructure update. If this is going to be servicing more residents than just the frontage that this is covering, that bill needs to be spread out and dispersed more evenly. And that's the way I feel. I can't speak for the people, the signatures on this sheet. I just wanted to show a representation of the support that we have to stand in opposition. And I will say that we have seen this on the CIP for years. I moved in 2014, and that was the first meeting I came to when I got a letter and stood in opposition.
I think I recall you being here.
Yes, and we have stood in opposition. So this is very short notice. We'd at least like to suspend this project until we can discuss further options for it. So if I can come forward and present this.
Please, Ken. Please.
Thank you.
Please do, Jay. Annie, did you want to speak?
I would.
Okay.
I'm just speaking as a mother, a resident of Fitchburg. My husband and I moved here, like you said, 5-6 years ago. We found a home that we could buy that was within our means. We've continued to live simply, surrounded by our amazing neighbors. This is Fitchburg. I know there are many constituents in Fitchburg. We are blue-collar, hardworking families, many people living on fixed incomes, older residents in this particular area. We're all being affected. This is a huge financial hit. A huge financial hit. We are paying approximately $1,000 more in property taxes. Not to bring my personal issues in here, but I lost my job as an educator due to the pandemic. We are real people, and I thank you for your time. I thank you for listening. I thank you for understanding that we are here and we genuinely want to keep our water rights as of today. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. Give me a sec here. All right, next, David Kenyon. At 5773 Irish Lane.
5173, excuse me.
5170, you are correct. I see the cross on the 7.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Pat.
Some ways I'm
Thank you,
French.
David.
Yeah, I would like to speak as the owner of 5173 Irish Lane, where I've lived since 1999, and actually lived most of my life in Fitchburg. I also think it's important to say that I recently purchased the next-door neighbor's property. It was very bad shape, and we've demolished all the residences there, and we're planning to put it into a prairie. And I'm not sure how this additional charges would be handled for I presume it's considered a residential property, but it isn't a residential property anymore. I don't know how this would be classified.
I don't know either.
I understand the usefulness as a resident down there of the additional fire protection. And I think paying for that additional fire protection is quite acceptable. What I'm not sure of is that, and in fact, I did call Tracy and asked her some of these questions, and I just wanted to confirm that we wouldn't be required to get our house serviced by this water main, and that we could use our own existing well. I guess those are the main things that I can think of that I wanted to say. I understand the need for fire protection, and I think that's good. But beyond that, I'm not, I'd like to keep my well. But I understand I will be given that opportunity when the time comes. I just need to know what's going to happen on this other property where there isn't a residence anymore.
What is the address of that other property?
5179 Irish Lane.
I'm not on zoning or anything like that. I'm sorry, David, I only know Public Works.
It's okay.
So I don't know if your property has to be rezoned.
I'm sure
Or, you know, I don't know
zoning
that, I don't
folks
know that
will
process.
hear of this discussion, and I hope that I will get a phone call from the appropriate zoning person and let me know what the situation would be.
Okay. I will see if I can make that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Tracy, sorry, Kenyak, thank you.
There's, if I'm is it off? Can you hear me? Okay. If I'm understanding correctly, there's a house on there today, right?
There is not a house.
Oh, there's
It's been
not.
taken down.
It's been
There
taken
is
down.
a pump house. There's a small building where the pump was, down in the freezeless area.
Yep,
That's all that's standing there right now.
okay. So I believe, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, it'd be very similar to, there's another lot out there that's vacant. It'd be similar to that one where it's connection, sale, or development, whichever one comes first would trigger the assessment for that lot. So if you sell it, it would trigger it.
Oh, if you
Yeah,
sell it,
if
it
you
would trigger it.
Yeah, if you sell the land, if you build a house and connect to it, it would trigger it, and then, and that would be the same as developing it. So if
Okay.
we were to develop it, it would trigger it.
Okay, so it wouldn't be triggered at this point. It's in abeyance.
Yes, But it is important I know which property that is. So
That is 5179 Irish Lane.
5179, all right.
And I've got all the appropriate permits for demolition and everything, so,
David, we don't see you on the list as being assessed.
5173 or 5179.
as being assessed.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I didn't request the extension, that's for sure.
I don't think you're,
There's a grouping of about 6 houses that were, the lots were developed in the early 50s.
Where are you on that map?
5179 would be, I'm number, let me see.
This is Irish Lane right here.
Oh, this is Irish Lane.
Yeah, and the Sain right here.
Sain and Irish Lane. So I am this one right here.
Oh, so this will be This will be part of, next year, they're looking to extend water main this way.
Yes, that's the one I'm,
Yes, so you'll be part of that project, but this project they're doing this year, you won't be a part of. But good to know that for when we do the assessments for next year, what's happening with those parcels.
oh, I'm a year premature, excuse me. Okay,
Anything else, David? We'll see if we could,
thank you.
maybe we can get you the answer prior to.
And then Tracy, just if you can restate when the assessment would actually kick in. You just kind of articulated that, but can you just kind of restate that one more time for us?
For this group, yeah. For this project, the Greenfield Water Main Extension, they'll be finalized probably in the February timeframe of next year, and then the assessment notice would be sent out shortly after that.
And is the assessment on connection, sale, or development?
That's his empty
Okay.
parcel.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
that just applies to his empty parcel.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Bill O'Brien.
Hey, thanks for taking the time to hear us all out here. Oh, sorry. Thanks. So my grandpa bought a lot back in '39. Clem Gunlock built his house. He dug the basement with a horse, and I've heard all about it my whole life. So it's an old property, and most of the houses on South Sayin, south of Irish Lane, a lot of them are pretty old properties. Before it was a city, and before all this planning. I've had that well there since '39, and it's been great. And so it seems a little obtuse to throw this water main. It seems suddenly here with this last letter in less than a week to try to talk to people about it. There's quite a bit of disinterest from most people, and it's quite understandable. You have your own well, you have your own sewer, and everything's been fine for 80 years. So, and then I thought, okay, so what is it? Fire, but you just put in a new fire station down the road, so that's something. Anyway, the costs are mind-boggling, as Annie spoke about. We're middle-income people, and through this COVID, it's been ridiculous. I cannot work as much because I need to be at home with the kids so that my wife can try to maintain her full-time job. So I don't like so we know, the costs aren't popular. I have a couple of questions. One is, why aren't you trying to put sewer in at the same time? Doesn't that, our drain fields, can add nitrates to our drinking water. So that would be a health and benefit. And I would propose delaying this project until the time when you can think about doing sewer. If you're going to do water, do sewer at the same time. The other thing I would like to talk about with the resurfacing, that South Sayin Road could be a conduit from Oregon towards Madison. There's a lot of people biking and walking in our neighborhood, and I would like to see a bike lane or pedestrian lane or mixed use lane added to the road project. And I'd also like you to consider lowering the speed limit to 25. It's pretty dense residential-ishness, at least south of Irish Lane. Maybe it's a little bit opened up north of Irish Lane, but so those are some of the things on my mind. I don't know what else. I called several aldermen, and I talked to Mr. Wheeler and hit him with about 50 million questions I wanted to pass on to you, Bill. And talking to all the neighbors over the last week, I've mostly forgotten everything I want to ask. So just to restate, I'm opposed to this, and almost everyone else I talk to. I understand the water loop. Maybe I should want to ask about that. Is there any other way you can connect this loop in a way that doesn't pass on massive expenses to everyone up and down Sayin Road? it looks like Greenfield's water system comes out in different directions. If you're trying to build another development south of Irish Lane, which sounds like a horrible idea, I don't know what this, I don't know why we're planning just to build everywhere. Maybe you can run a water line that way. Anyway, so I'm done talking. Thank you for
Hold on,
your time.
Bill, can we, or Tracy, can we, I know a number of the residents have this question about the sewer at the same time. I have no answer one way or the other on that. Can you offer some insights?
Yeah, so in order to install sanitary sewer in a neighborhood, they have to be within the urban service area. And the urban service area doesn't go past Hartung. And it's an application, it's a process the city has to go through in order to bring it into the urban service area. But we have a lot of land that's undeveloped already in the urban service area, so the likelihood of, being able to bring it in is not, it's not 100%, that's for sure. I don't know, maybe Bill could comment to that. It's difficult. When you have a lot of open land, it's difficult to bring additional areas in so that you can provide sewer to them. Oh. Sorry. So in order to install sewer to properties, they have to be in what's called the urban service area. And the urban service area right now, if you're coming from the north of Fitchburg South, ends partway through the Hartung property. So the lands south of Hartung are not within the urban service area. And it's a process that you have to go to bring properties within that area. But the issue we have right now is we have a lot of area in the urban service area in the northern, north of you that isn't developed. And so trying to bring additional land in when we already have a lot of land available for development is difficult at best. True. Yes, true. But at the time that we would do it, we would probably have less land available for development where it would be more likely to get approved. The sewer right now, just so we all know, the sewer right now is at Lacey Road and Haight Farm Road is where it's located right now. So you would be looking at, a mile of extension of a 36-inch interceptor to get it there.
I would just add, this urban service territory, I'm not for crazy growth. And I felt for all the years I've been on the board that the border of the urban service territory allowed me to keep a reasonable cap on expansion and growth of the city, because I don't think I have to tell any of you that adding, new things, new subdivisions and things in the city never lowers your taxes. It only raises ours. So I felt the urban service territory is something that kind of restrains us from sprawling all over the place.
Just one last comment then. If we're outside of that urban service territory, then can't we relate the same idea with the water main as we do with the sewer and say, let's wait?
So water main is not limited. The water system is not limited to the urban service area like the sanitary sewer system is. And in this case, we have, water. We have a water system outside the urban service area today, which is called our south system, which is the Greenfield neighborhood. And this main does connect that system to our main system.
Thank you. I won't take any more of your time.
You're saying you're gonna run the water main. My understanding is there is going up the microphone, ask your question. So my question is, you're gonna run the water main, and then down the road, you're gonna tear everything up to run the sewer underneath the water main? Because that's the way you're supposed to run this stuff?
So
It's gonna add more cost to everybody.
So sewer to to the Greenfield area won't come directly down Cyene Road. We take the lowlands when we bring it down, when we extend it to the south. So we find the lowest areas, the lowest property elevation wise, and that's where we run it because it's the cheapest to install it because it's not so deep. So the water main will actually, it'll cross Lacey Road, and it'll run closer to Highway 14. And yes, it'll eventually come into Syene Road, but that's south of Tarbellwicki before it would even run parallel to Syene Road. And again, we don't know when that is. That could be, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years before it comes down that way.
Or more.
I don't know.
So the water main is gonna be east of South Syene or west of South Syene?
The water main will be under Syene, South Syene Road. It'll be on the west side of South Syene Road, under the road.
Okay, and do you also realize there's a gas line that you're running over and power lines?
Yeah, when you design water main, we locate all the utilities, and then we design, accordingly based on where those utilities are located.
Because that's the reason that the power lines didn't go through there, is because there was a gas line ran already, which adds corrosion to all the pipes,
So
electric and gas.
So the gas main is in the terrace for most of or in the ditch for most of the way down. There is, I don't know, approximately a 300 foot section where it's on the edge of the road. But for the most part, we're maintaining, actually through the whole thing, we're maintaining 6 feet or more from that gas main.
But you're going right over a main feed, the big main feed, that goes through our yard. It goes over the main feed that you're going over.
So we may cross it, but that's all over the city. We cross gas mains. We can't avoid that.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Next, Margaret. Is it Amley, Margaret? Or, okay, at 5139 Irish Lane.
Yes, that's correct. Some of my questions have been answered. Tracy, we've had a hard time understanding you, and so I would like more of an explanation about the impact fee that we are all going to be assessed. It sounded as though that's in addition to the $6,840.
Yes, so the impact fee comes due at the time you pull a building permit. And it's one of the things I spoke with Dave about, why isn't it included in the assessment? That's a question I've been asked many times. And the reason we don't include it is because the ordinance says it's not due until the time of connection. But what if the ordinance changes and there's no impact fee in 10 years? Let's say you opt to keep your private well, and in 10 years you connect and there's no impact fee. Now it was put into the assessment, but we don't even have it anymore. But the biggest thing is that the ordinance reads it's due at the time of connection, so putting it into the assessment is in violation of our ordinance and how it's written. And in regards to the impact fee, it is required of every property within the city of Fitchburg, whether you're residential, commercial, industrial, and it's based on usage. So the cost per residential home is $1,285 this year, but we've had parcels, industrial parcels that have paid close to $100,000 for that impact fee. So a lot of the costs for our wells, towers, oversizing mains are coming from many different properties, and they're paying a lot more than what the residential ones are.
I'm just trying to understand how much money we're actually going to be charged.
Yep.
We have gotten letters for many years. I was aware in 2008 when this first came into the CIP as a proposal. The letters have come out every year with very little detail. These figures are coming out now with short time frames, and that's a large objection that people have. Is it's startling, especially in these times, to see these kinds of numbers. Part of my question is that these are preliminary assessments, and so I would like to know what other fees and costs are going to be assessed. Do you have an anticipation of what they may be? So there's the $6,840, there's 100 and something, now there's $1,285 for an impact fee. Are there other costs, and when will they be due, so that people have a better idea of when they have to come up with that money?
So no, there's two things. There's the assessment that you see there, which is an estimate right now, right? So the ones that are based on plant value are pretty much set in stone because it's based on the last 10 years. It's the costs that are actual costs that could vary. We do put a 20% contingency in any assessment we do to cover those costs, and if the costs were to come in 10% higher, we would have to hold another preliminary assessment hearing and invite everybody in. So they are restricted to that 10%, otherwise you have to have another hearing.
Okay. Another question I have is, do we have a ballpark figure of, I know you are not the private plumbers, but you have experience, how much typically does it cost per foot for someone to have that connection from the lateral to their house? Because that's an additional cost.
I don't, I think it's, it's more than $5,000. I would venture to say, but again, I'm an electrical engineer. I don't have any experience in those.
It really varies depending on each parcel and how far they have to run the service. How many trees do you have? Is the well in the back of the yard? Is it 100 feet? Is it 150 feet? Is it better off to come through a foundation wall in a different location versus connecting to your well? So it's tough to say because each property is so different and each house sits in each well is in a different location on each property. It does vary. I've heard as low as 3,500, but I've heard, 10,000 too. But it really is, the best thing you can do is contact a plumber and have them give you an estimate so that you know.
All right, so just to verify, when do you anticipate that these costs will be finalized?
So typically we do them in February of the following year. So next February, we would look at finalizing the costs. And then once they're finalized, the letters would go out to the residents. And it gives them 60 days to pay the assessment in full without interest, and then interest starts after 60 days. And then because they're all over $5,000, they're put on the tax roll over a 7-year period. So a seventh of it is put on the tax roll each year for 7 years.
Unless it's paid in full.
Unless it's paid in full, correct.
All right, thank you.
May I add just one thing? When this goes through and you all want to put on, hook up the water, get a plumber out there and you all get together and see what kind of deal you can get. Bring more than one plumber and have it figured out, and you may come up with a decent deal. Okay?
Thank you.
Additional fees, I'm understanding, is also if we decide not to hook up, you're telling us we have to get our private well certified and get by a master plumber, as well as submitting permits to the city. So those are gonna be additional fees that all of us will have to swallow.
Unless you hook up to the water, then you don't have to do that.
All right, next, Gerald Schaefer? Seehafer, I'm sorry.
I want to thank Mr. Wheeler. Thank you very much. If he can hear me, can you hear me?
He can hear you.
Oh, I don't have much. They've asked a bunch of the questions that I'm interested in. The sewer, of course. It said it'd probably be 10 years before we could put in sewer, or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, any estimate at this time would be
Well,
a guess.
I emphasize, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And we all like our wells. We like what we got. Of course, you're an engineer, you're an electrical. We probably got a hydrologist or something. And you think big, you got to think of a big plan. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we're little people. We've got little hearts. And we've got a little space that we call our community. And we really love it. And I don't see why we have to mess with it right now. We got 7 days notice. Whoops. Well, we still managed to get a couple dozen people here. We need some time to think on this. I would suggest 10 years, but I jest. Now, the deferment payments, we don't have to pay it all at once, correct? I mean, depending on what we're assessed.
That's correct,
And it seems to me, I read that it's like if it's over $5,000, which almost all of us are in for, and then you've got like a span, you said it could be paid off in like 7 to 20 years. I vote for the 20 years. If we have to put this in.
I don't know. I think is there a hardship provision, Tracy? It seems like I don't think it is. I believe we extended the assessment to, it used to be 5 years and we extended it to 7. Yeah.
But it says, but no more than 20. I vote for the 20 years.
I don't know. I gotta plead ignorance on that, Joe. We'd have to get back to you on that. I see kind of blank looks from everyone. here.
Okay.
So,
That would be something that would have to be
And didn't,
voted on, Dave,
okay.
whether you would extend it longer.
and didn't Bill, is that right, Bill? And didn't you mention something about this is a redundancy? A redundancy? Well, what's wrong with what we got? Sure, it's nice to have backup, but why now, when we've got all we need? Just a question. And again, thank you, Mr. Wheeler. You are the man. Thank you all.
Thank you, Gerald.
So when Bill was referring to redundancy, he was referring to redundancy for the south system. So it'd be the Greenfield area, Irish Lane, Hilltop, East Hill. A redundancy for that system was what he was referring to.
Any home that connected along here would also be part of the redundant system now too, though, right?
They would, so once we hook up the south system, we'll keep a well down there, so you'll be able to feed from the main system and still from a well in the south system. So there is some redundancy that way in the spacing of the wells. It's not looped per se, because the south system, someday the south system will be looped another direction, and that obviously will help not only the south system, but then Sayin Road when that happens. Because every main we put in helps others. But it does create redundancy because you have that wells on both sides.
Okay, thank you. Pat McGaw. 2570
Curly Oaks.
Curly Oaks Lane. Thank you.
On the policies and procedures for special assessments. Tracy mentioned it was done in '09, the latest update. The latest one I got was in '13. I got a couple of pages I copied out of it. On page 6, or 26, on C, it says the statement's going to be given, the engineer will give a statement investigating the benefits of the property, or to the property, and the property to be assessed. I'd like to see what that benefit is. And then there's also one, you go back on, what page is that, 14 out of 26. It says double frontage lots. It says typically, double frontage lots have restricted access. If the frontage being improved has no access to the improvements being installed, it shall not be assessed. And back, I got a copy of part of the covenants of the Tarpelick Hills, and you weren't allowed to have any access on Sayin Road. There should be no access from any kind from lots, 15, 16, 17, whatever they are. And so that takes care of basically, if you go by that one, it'd be lot, be 2 through 7. And I got some questions on some of the assessments I got. There's 3 of them on there. One of them's current, 2 of them are being deferred. And it gives the frontage of the lot. They're different than what are on the, what I got from the county. Not huge difference, but a little difference. But on one lot, there's also 2 of them, the assessment is a lot higher. The price is higher than what the other ones are. And also on that lot, there's a 25-foot easement on the south side of the lot for a waterway. Now, did I get assessed on a waterway that will never develop? No.
I have to defer to the engineer.
Okay. Do you want me to answer the questions he
sure.
has? You have, okay. So in regards to when the assessment was revisited, in 2009, they did a complete study of the assessment policy and revamped the assessment policy at that time. Any revisions since then are small revisions to the policy, not the ones that are impacting you for the water main. So that's the difference between what we're talking about in 2009 versus the small changes they made to the assessment policy
In
from that
13.
point forward.
It's the
13.
policy that,
Yes.
it's the policy.
The most current, the year of the most current policy is 13.
13.
But in 2009 is when they did the assessment policy study. The city actually did a study on the assessment policy and made revisions to it. And it's those revisions that impact this project the most. and how the assessments are.
No, but if the one in 13 says you won't be assessed,
No, I mean, you're talking about benefit, right? So you said,
No.
is there a statement of benefit?
I'm
And-
talking about the assessment. It says if you don't have direct access.
Okay, so we'll get into that one.
I would think that also applied to some people down on Irish Lane.
So direct access is water main adjacent to your property, not access from the road to your property, right? And so, like I said earlier, Tarplewicki, Curly Oaks, and one of the Irish Lane have a choice. They can either be assessed and will provide a service through this project, or when water main is extended on the other roads adjacent to their property, they can choose to be assessed at that time.
No, it says restricted access. If you have restricted access, you won't be assessed. It has restricted access.
So again, you have the choice. So you can either be part of this assessment, or you can be part of the one along Curly Oak. And the reason we're giving you the choice, because it may be a benefit for you if you need water right now.
I don't.
Okay, so you may opt not to, but I do want to caution you when you make this decision that this is not a petition for Maine and you pay a lower cost for it and you don't have to connect now. If your neighborhood does petition for it, it's actual cost and you have to connect. So keep that in mind. It's totally up to you. I just want to make sure you have all the information when you make that decision.
And I don't, if it says double frontage and you don't, if the frontage don't have access, you can't be assessed. It shall not be assessed.
So you won't be assessed for one of your frontages. So let's say you're on a corner lot, you're never assessed for both frontages, you're only assessed for one. And in this case, it'd be the one you'd choose to have your service off. Let's say your well, I don't know which properties are your well, but let's say your well is on the side of your property that's right adjacent to Cyene Road. It may be the cheapest, option for you to connect may be coming off South Cyene Road.
No.
And if it's not, then it might be Curly Oaks. That's why we gave you that option, so that you can determine what's best for you.
How do I know if that on option, the one here, it says you're getting assessed 6,400 or 60, whatever it is, and the other two are deferred.
Yes. So
You said I got a choice.
you do. I sent you a letter on Friday. Maybe you haven't received it yet.
I haven't
So,
yet.
yeah, so there's six parcels, and it sounds like you own 2 or 3 of them. Is that 3 of them? So those 3, are you Tarplewicki or are you Curly Oaks? Curly Oaks, yep. So those 3, and there's one that has a Wild Heather address, and there's 2 that have Tarplewicki. All 6 of those have the option of whether they want to be assessed and a service provided through this project, or if they would prefer to wait whenever water main's installed on the other adjacent streets to their property.
All right, we'll deal with that later. It sounds like it's still up, that part of it's still up in the air.
It's up to you.
You can account, if your well's failing now, you can hook up to it, but you don't have to.
Yes.
If you don't hook up to it, you're not gonna be assessed. On the ones that are.
Yeah, whichever one you choose. You just let us know, and we'll set it up that way. And so what would happen is, if you chose not to be assessed now, then, when we final the assessments, you wouldn't be part of it.
Now, on that other lot on there, what is that, 25-foot easement for a waterway? The
Okay.
easement's between me and, actually, back then it was the town of Fitchburg.
Okay. So easements aren't excluded from it. It's the actual parcel frontage. But again, it's capped at 100 feet, though, too, in this case.
I think all of them are 100, just under, they're close, some of them are just different.
Yep.
But, and then on there, one of them, it's marked how it's got to crosses lot lines or whatever, to the, one parcel, 2 parcel on existing lots. It doesn't cross lot lines.
So
I fought with the assessor over that.
so is that house on just one parcel?
One parcel.
Okay,
The only thing that crosses a lot line, when the mound system went in,
okay,
it had to cross the lot line. It's the only part on those 3 parcels that would pass perk for a sewer.
okay.
And I
So-
had to sign an easement with myself.
Okay.
I think it's 20 foot or something.
Okay.
It crosses the lot line.
All right, so what happens there then is, then the vacant parcel becomes a sale, connection, or development is what would happen with the vacant parcel. I think right now it's written that it's 2 houses on one, and it's deferred unless the house is ripped down and you build 2 homes, is how it's written. So it would change.
I won't do it. Somebody else might, but I won't.
Yeah, so it would change just how it's labeled at the bottom, and when that would become due, is what that would do.
But why is the assessment, say anything that's deferred, assessed at a higher rate?
Because it's petition, so it's existing residential homes that get the lower rate, right? Because they have a well. And they've already invested a cost in that well, right? If you're a property and you haven't built a home, you haven't invested any cost in a well, and you need the water main or a well to connect, you'd be drilling one or you would be connecting to it. So they get charged the actual cost for that because they would need that water main.
Doesn't make much sense to me, but whatever. Then there was something in here back, actually, here's the two, I can give these two to you. The one from the county. What they're showing and what it actually does, what the actual lot line will be when they got something goofy they're doing.
Did you get this?
Then there was another, pardon?
Did you get this off Access Dane?
That's where I think I printed that one off of. The other one came from the one from the county, his name, he sent me an email.
Yeah.
Then there's a capital improvement plan. It said back, it's been pushed back many times, and it gives it back in, it got pushed back for a year in the CIP plan between 16 and 20, then 17 to 21, 18 to 27, then in the 19 to 28 update. It says it's project proponed by year with the increased budget by $640,000 to cover the additional water main that would not be required in the event the adjacent properties have not developed prior to the need for this main, as well as to reflect the current bidding market. This project also includes removing hydro pneumatic tanks at wells 7 and 8 and resizing the pumps to service the east zone. I don't think that's got a lot to do with only certain people. They probably aren't even getting assessed.
So the cost for removing the hydro-pneumatic tanks and abandoning the well and resizing well 7 are not included as part of the assessments. They are improvements we're going to make after this connection is made, but they're not part of the assessments. And the additional money was put in because we had anticipated that Gold Leaf would have developed further to the south before this main was installed, but he hasn't. And so we added more money to cover those costs for the main that wasn't installed as part of development.
And then on the public service thing, it says, on its goals and this Fitchburg, growing Fitchburg 2030, it said their objective is to expand public utilities to areas without urban service areas only after a neighborhood plan has been approved, which there's a neighborhood there, but there's no plan. And subsequent urban service adjustment requests have been approved by the Capital Area Planning Commission and Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. Now, those initial wells were just for the houses in the neighborhood. When, what was it? Frank Carden had a bunch of houses around joint wells, and they went to the state, and Fitchburg, town of Fitchburg Times said, we can't afford to do anything with that. And they got to the state, and the state said, you'll do it, or we will, and you'll get the bill. So they put the wells in there, and there was nothing to do with urban service area at the time, because that's many years ago. And
Houses were there, though, the neighborhood was there.
the neighborhood, no, I don't know, but the neighborhood was there, but the well, I don't think back then it would have had to go to an urban service area. It was just service those few houses. But now this, I don't know, what, water is not included in the urban service area?
Water, yeah, it's not a requirement for parcels to be within the urban service area in order to be provided water service. Only sanitary sewer. It's required that they're in the urban service area.
Now, those tanks and that pumps, that's not being on the assessment, is that correct?
That is not on the assessment, no.
Now, is there any way to get what actually is on the assessment?
Sure.
Cost-wise, no, like whatever we got's not on there.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have a,
You're being assessed per foot.
Per foot
N-inch.
for the water main, but that.
N-inch water main.
That's, it's almost like that's a different project?
so that's the bid tab that has the cost for the water main that's being installed. And then on there, you'll see, Hughes is our low bidder for our water main. And adjacent to it, there's costs for impact fees, oversizing costs. And those are the costs that are taken out of the assessment and applied to impact fees that are not charged to the benefiting properties. But keep in mind, in addition to that, the costs that aren't being charged to is the difference between the plant value rate and the actual cost that's taken out too and put into impact fees.
I got one other question for you. As far as on the Hartung property and I think the Haas property, they're assessed for their frontage, but there's a railroad tracks between Sign Road and their frontage, if you want to call it frontage. Now, doesn't the rail line have to pay something, or how can they assess something that's not?
Well, the rail line's not a benefiting property, obviously, but it is it's a corridor, if you will, so it'd be whatever's on the other side of that corridor that would be assessed, because they're the benefiting property adjacent to the water main.
Ed, if you had anything else,
No.
you just give Tracy a call and
Yeah.
take a look at the letter that she sent you. Thank you. Karen Lawrence at 5234 Oak Haven Road. Oh, did you fill out another one?
Late, so you discussed one of the questions I had, and that was about sewer. I don't live on Irish Lane, so the water's not going to affect me. But I can tell you, if it's the water that comes, I don't like it. I actually get water from a friend who has a well, and that's beside the point. But what I came in to talk about was the fact that I think that this reasoning of yours is specious, to say the least, because you build a new firehouse, then you decide to put a water main. Do I have to sit?
They can't hear you for the public
Oh,
record.
I thought I had a loud voice, sorry. Okay.
Thank you, Karen.
Where was I? Okay, so we pay for a new firehouse, very nice, okay? Then they decide to put a water main down Irish Lane, supposedly for fire. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. That doesn't seem logical to me.
Can I stop you right there?
Yeah,
So the fire truck comes, they only carry so much water.
right, but,
And so, there'd be a hydrant there, so if there was a fire, they're not, they don't have to be trying to shuffle tankers, or, you have, I don't want to say unlimited, but you have enough, if you're on a main and there's a hydrant, you have enough water to put out your fire. House, outside, a rural, more rural than you are, that doesn't have anything by there, truck comes, hopefully they got enough to put it out. There's no guarantee, depending on the size of the fire.
there's not many houses, I don't know how far this is, you're planning on put this, but there's not many houses on that stretch of road. And how often does a fire happen?
Well,
I'm just saying,
you hope never, but when it does,
Right, but I'm saying that.
I'm charged with making sure
I
we
still
can
think.
protect your home.
Yes, that's true. But I still think for the amount of time this would be needed, it just doesn't make any sense. And secondly, the thing that got to me when I first came in is I heard somebody say, well, this is the way we've always done it. That doesn't mean that you can't change the way you do things. Now, first of all, government changes rules all the time, and how people do pay for things. So there were some people that had to pay for hookup. Doesn't mean that you have to continue that policy. You can change policies anytime you want. And there's always going to be somebody that is upset. Usually it's me. So I think that is just not a valid, reason to say, well, we did it this way, so we've got to keep doing it that way. I think you need to maybe think outside the box. And personally, I would like to see sewer out there because I'm on a mound system, and if that fails, I don't know where they put the next one because there's no place to put it. And if you're going to develop things, they should go together. It just makes sense. I think that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
And does anyone else have a slip? They're holding out on us back there. Thank you. I'll take it. Thank you. Okay. Next, Paul Algiers, 2470 South Sayin Road.
I was just looking over all the costs, and the one cost that really hasn't been addressed is what is the monthly or quarterly fee for water? It's going to impact a lot of people. Is it $250 a quarter, or?
Depends on your usage.
I understand, we understand that, but on an average, just so everyone knows, in the group, we're looking $6,800, $1,200, and then a lot of money to install the water or to hook it up, and then you'll have the continual fee here on out. And I think that impacts a lot of people, and I just wanted to bring that up.
Or Tracy, can you, the average residential water bill, not the, these people would only have half because they're not, the bill I get at my house, it's the water usage and the sewer. So if they just had water, what might be a typical quarterly bill? I'm thinking it's less than 100.
It probably would be. So the average home use is probably about 7,000 gallons. A family of four, 7,000 gallons a month, and it's based on every 100,000 gallons is how it's charged. So on a quarter, you'd be looking at 21,000 gallons, let's say. And I, for the life of me, do not remember the current rates, whether it's $2.50 approximately. Bill, do you know on average? Yeah, I was trying to pull it up on my phone. So, you're looking at 50 every quarter probably for usage, and then you have a meter charge too, would be my best guess, but I'd like to hear what Bill says that meter charge is, maybe $25. So maybe 75 to 100 is what you would be looking at, and that's every 3 months. So it's quarter, we bill quarterly at Fitchburg, but I would like to hear the meter rate if Bill gets it pulled up.
3/4 inch meter,
Mm-hmm.
1591.
1591. So you're probably more in the 65 to 75 range. What's the rate for the first 5,000 gallons or whatever?
It's 8,000, it's $2.10 a gallon.
$2.10, and then the next?
242.
242. So you probably wouldn't exceed that second one, so 250 would be on the high end.
Okay.
So if you irrigate, it could go much higher, though. Keep that in mind. Irrigation's what typically will drive a higher water bill.
Correct, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anyone else have? Yes.
Hi, is there any way we could create a motion to delay, look at this more with some sewer, or a vote to suspend this project at this time? Thanks.
Well, this is a public hearing. Okay. We're not approving at this point. Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think we have any motions. This is just for us to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to speak. And then I think at a subsequent meeting, we'll have a motion on the table. Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions on that? Okay. Well, thank you for coming. I know this isn't easy. This is the one I would tell you, my 28 years on the board, I hate this meeting the most, but I tell you, there is a benefit to having city water, even if you're not hooked up for fire protection, property values. My parents' well went bad at their house, and they've told me many times they wish they would have had been on city water. I hope your wells last you the rest of your lives and your children's lives, to be honest with you. But this is just to get your input, and there will be two more. The Board of Public Works, this will come before motion, on this resolution, and also the City Council. So approximately what would be those dates, Bill? Would these be on the agenda?
For
Public Works to approve the
final resolution?
Yes.
That would be in February.
Okay. But, that's if the project goes, that's the same, saying in February, build the project. When would we have the vote to yay or nay on moving ahead with this?
With the bids?
That's today.
The bids.
That's the
Today's
bids.
bids.
That's B is the bid today.
Bids.
Sorry, I misread that.
Yeah, I see it, I see it. I'm a little uncomfortable with the public hearing and the bids at the same meeting. I'm uncomfortable with that. I would, you know, I'd like, our next meeting, I'd like to move the bids to the next meeting, but, that's, that'll be a choice of the board here. But I would like to close the public hearing at this point. Yes, Patrick?
Yeah, thank you. Since none of this was in your packet, for me who was not along this route, I didn't, you know, I couldn't see the list and didn't see the map and everything. I was hearing from my neighbors about what was going on and everything. Several of them asked me to come. Could we have a more detailed report from our water utility engineer? I'm sorry, Tracy, it was very hard to hear you back here in the audience. That would cover a lot of the details that you explained. Some of these other alternatives, the future, you have to pay for everything thing, especially in Tarpon Hills where I am. Could we have a report and then all of this information included either in your packet or in the minutes or something so that it can be referred or reviewed, especially if you're going to defer this to a next meeting, then all of us could digest a lot of this information. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Okay. I'd like to close the public hearing at this time and move on to the agenda items. Okay? Thank you all for coming. I appreciate
Thank you all.
your participation. Pardon me?
So
I don't know yet.
Yeah,
I don't
we're
know
gonna-
the board. It's, you know, what?
Oh, feel free to stay.
Hey,
Absolutely feel free to stay. Yeah, the public hearing. Yep, the public hearing component is where we just kind of shut up and listen to everybody talk, and then we're gonna start taking up the motion items next. Yep.
All right. So we're back on our agenda here then. Agenda item number 7 alpha, resolution R 118-21, adopting the 2022 through 2031 capital improvement plan. Do we have a motion to approve this resolution?
We can't jump, we've already on the other one, Dave.
We're on
Right?
that. We did 7J.
I thought we made a resolution on 7B, did we, or did we not? Okay, then go back to A.
Yeah, we have to go back to A.
Can I make an amendment to push this one and do 7B first?
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Nay.
Okay. So we have before us Resolution R 123-21, authorizing acceptance of the Greenfield Water Main Extension bid. We have a motion to approve.
Moved.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Second by discussion.
Personally, I would like to see us delay it to the next meeting.
I concur with Mr. Wilborn.
Can we get some background from Bill or Tracy as to, I mean, she did say originally that if it was delayed, and I don't know by one meeting, but unfortunately, our next meeting is 4th of July, so if we have a special.
No, it's 1 month away from today. Our next meeting will be. It's a month from today. I think it's 21st in July we have our next meeting.
Unless we hold a special.
We can have a special
whatever.
session.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess I'd like to hear from Tracy, what does delaying, us not addressing the bid at this time cause?
So if it's not addressed at this time and you have, even if you had a special meeting, it still needs to go to council, and council has canceled their first meeting in July as well. So approval would not be till July 27th, and the project would not move forward this year. And neither would resurfacing of South Scion Road. We can't get it done in time.
So would it be approval tonight by this board and then approval
Tomorrow,
tomorrow by council? So that goes pretty darn quick.
it does. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, I found from experience, I found the council doesn't, pay that much attention to what the board has approved. I'll let council decide this tomorrow. I'm in favor of approving this tonight, and council can make the final decision tomorrow.
So since we are an advisory board, I'm not sure what the protocol would be to kind of make sure, and both Dave, you and Jim being part of council, just kind of make sure that it's known that maybe Public Works was not necessarily comfortable with having the meeting with outstanding questions and then taking it to council the next day. But with that said,
Here's what, yeah, we'll take our vote. We'll take a vote, see where it is, and then.
Hey,
pass it.
Dave?
Yes, Jim.
I gotta tell you, after listening to the testimony today, I'm really uncomfortable with this process. And, I get this has been on the CIP for a while. And, someone mentioned that they got letters starting in 2008. Well, if I'm getting letters started in 2008 and all of a sudden they say, well, it's not going to go, then, get another letter, oh, it's not going to go. And then all of a sudden I get a letter that says, well, it's going to go next week. I'm going to be really unhappy about it. And, to have this and then to have that vote tomorrow, I'm not comfortable with it. And I like what the person who testified said, this, just because this is the way we always did it, doesn't mean it can't change. I mean, things do change. And, I know I'm new to the council, I'm new to this board, but I'm also kind of like a process person. And I like to get the information, and I like to think about it, and I like to bring people along, no matter what the decision is, to bring people along. And I just got to put it on the record that this does not feel right.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim.
We're going to take a vote. I'm probably going to abstain.
Okay. I would just add, the consistency issue, that is one of the reasons, I'm big on consistency, that all our residents are treated similar over the, over the years, that no one, that if you're changing it all the time, I know no one likes paying this, but it's been consistent, and if you change this, then we start throwing, we have ordinances and we start throwing them all out, that the council does whatever it wants. If we, I disagree with, some things can be reviewed, but, assessment policy that we've set up and used for good reason for many years, I'm not in favor of changing that. If you ask my District 1 residents, we've paid for our water, and all that, and to say, all right, your utility bills are gonna go up, your water bill's gonna go up to pay for some other part, and say, well, we paid our assessment already. So that's a difficult debate. I'm not minimizing it, but this one, whether we approve it or not, I feel this needs to stay consistent in how we do that.
and I would also throw in there, I made the point at TTC the other night when we were kind of talking about the Lacey Road redesign project, is that the council voted to stick within the bike and ped plan. They didn't necessarily take the recommendation from this board, and that's council's right to do that. Our role on this board is to say, policy may not necessarily apply in our, either policy does apply in this situation, or this is, one of those situations in which policy does not apply. And then council will again kind of have the final decision. We are just an advisory board, kind of taking a look and hearing from everybody and making a recommendation to council. And then, we've got the 8 alders that serve the city pretty well. So again, I'm in favor of taking a vote tonight to make sure that council has what the board would recommend, and then go from there.
I share Jim's uncomfort with the, kind of with the timing here.
Is this typical timing? Do you usually have your public hearing the same day as your bid opening? It is typical?
No.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Tracy said yes.
Well, we have, to have the preliminary assessment, we need to get an idea what the bids are gonna be, and we wanna be accurate. Yeah.
we did have this on our agenda a couple times ago to have the preliminary report that we already voted to approve.
Yeah, so the hearing is typically the night of of awarding the project, because we need the bids in order to put the cost together. Yeah, there have been a few times, Lacey Road would be an example, that it was done later. I was on maternity leave or whatever when they did that one, but for the most part, this is how we try to do it, so that we have the most accurate numbers for the assessments when we put the preliminary ones together for the residents.
And typically, do you just send those letters out a week ahead of time? Because that's what you have, that's a typical part of the process also?
That's state statutes. So 10 days prior to the hearing, you have to send your letters out by state statutes, and you have to advertise or put a notice in the paper 10 days prior. Mhm.
Let me ask I got a question for the residents, okay? So this is, the road and the water main have to go together. All right, don't do this, all right. Well, I say we're not doing it. If I'm here next year, you're gonna be having the same objections, I think. Am I wrong?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The other thing too is like she said, she sent it 10 days out. We got one on Friday and one today. So, for the letters. So they better start sending out further ahead than 10 days.
So they need
I'm
to be.
sorry, I can't hear what's being said.
So the resident is saying that he received one today, and when was the other one? Last Friday? Friday. But they went out the Friday before the assessment hearing ones did. And then the one you would have received today was mailed out this past Friday, and that was more a project notice, was the one you received today. So I can't explain why, what happened with the mail, but they were mailed out 10 days prior to the hearing.
All right, then I'm gonna call the vote, okay? All in favor of resolution R 123-21, signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Abstain.
Opposed?
Opposed? I abstain.
Opposed.
All right, motion does not carry. All right. Next, resolution R 118-21, adopting 2022 through 2031 capital improvement plan.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So we are all done with the water main conversation for tonight. I don't believe there's any other items on the agenda relating to that. You're more than welcome to stick around if you want to listen to some fun CIP talk.
But it is gonna go to council tomorrow night.
Correct.
Understand what you guys are doing. So can you explain what you just voted on and what the ramifications would be? It would be very helpful. Thank you.
We did not approve acceptance of the water main bids, okay? That's all, the board did not approve that. It'd still go to council, and council will make a decision. So that'll be the old.
We just make a recommendation to council.
Yeah.
And then they may have the final say. We're an advisory board to the city council.
I would tell you, at some point, this water main, I believe this water main will come. You can, I wish I could tell you different, but I think it is a benefit to properties and improves, we have a plan that we follow on our city water main. I think, if this board doesn't approve it and the council doesn't, I believe this would still be coming. I don't. Well, I think.
Not in the urban service area.
Yeah. One thing I would recommend, though, is if you do have questions, comments, concerns for your alders or as the alders as a whole body, now would be a good time to kind of get those last concerns out, and then the council meeting is tomorrow night, so would take that.
All right.
Can I note that I didn't vote?
You did
I
not
still had some questions. I wasn't ready
Okay.
yet, but I abstained.
So let's give a record, Herbst abstained,
I voted to oppose it.
opposed, Wheeler abstained,
Opposed.
And Mike
Gronetsky was opposed. Okay, all right. So, resolution R 118-21, adopting 2022 through 2031 capital improvement plan. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Granetsky, second by Lobdell. So at last, 2 weeks ago, Bill went through all the Board of Public Works, all their capital improvement projects for essentially for the 10-year period. And so I'm just seeing, does the board have any questions for him on these projects?
Not on me.
At the committee, or at the finance meeting, I asked all my questions, so I will leave it up to the other board members if you have any questions for Bill.
I have none.
Michael?
Sorry about that. The salt shed repairs / additions, are we also then gonna increase capacity and we would expect those costs to go up on a year-by-year basis?
We're gonna evaluate where we are. I think the capacity is okay.
Okay.
What we have out there, but we will evaluate if we can get a few more square yards or cubic yards for the money that we can spend.
Okay.
We might increase it.
Okay. And that's one of those things I always kind of struggle with. Our salt is always, we keep our salts, bin nice and full. I think that's been policy forever, and I have no problems with that. But if we expand capacity, we just, kind of increase that expenditure. And year over year, that would be fine, because it's going to be the same amount of salt that we would purchase regardless. Probably like a one-time bump. But if it's one of those things where, we're building onto it just because we can, that's one of those things I tend to pause on a little bit.
Bill, did we have an analysis, what happened with the old salt shed? A sense for why, weren't they wooden beams that were deteriorating, which seemed a little odd to me from salt?
Yeah, well, they're on the exterior of the building, and they're made of treated timber, and they're just dry rotting. They're falling apart. Some of them are just rotting from the inside out, and they need to be replaced. They're the supports to the main beams, and if we don't replace those or replace the entire shed, everything is just going to bow out and explode.
So we'd be using a strictly concrete lower portion this time? I see the salt sheds around the country, and it's usually a concrete, and then it has some sort of fabric dome or something, a lot of them, some sort of plastic material, on the upper part. Are you looking at that type of design?
No, we would use a concrete bunker for the main part where the salt would be resting up against, but the upper part would probably still be a timber structure.
Okay, sounds good.
Quite a few years ago, I offered to spray paint that for them if they bought the paint, but nobody bought it.
No one bought it.
Could have been sealed off real nice.
All right. So any other questions?
Yeah, the other question I had on 2022 is 3495, the Lacey Seminole intersection, East Lacey Seminole. Is that the actual planned, whether it be roundabout, streetlights? Is that what that is, or is that more of the actual Lacey Road replacement?
That would be the actual Lacey Road replacement. Essentially what we're doing this year in 2021 is designing this year, constructing next year an intersection improvement from the Badger State Trail through the intersection.
Okay.
The project that remains in the CIP in 26, I think it is, would be the reconstruction of Seminole Highway to the north of the intersection and Lacey Road to the east through the school area.
Bill, I had Jim, did you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Bill, there are a large number of stormwater projects, and quite a few of them deal with the newer part of the city over here that we didn't plan adequately. And, are there, I recall only one of those was an accessible project. And is that right? It seems to me like all these stormwater problems caused by these new neighborhoods, and then, my district, we're paying for those. A lot of those. Is there any opportunity on more of those for a area-wide assessment for the benefiting properties? I guess just a general question,
Generally, yes, we're looking at some projects that have an area assessment to them. One of them would be like the Uptown Pond area, and that's the Nine Springs Uptown area by Lacey Road and where Phoenix is up in that area. Well, actually, it's to the north of there where Central Park Place goes through. That whole area we looked at, it's been planned for a regional pond, and as development occurs, they would be assessed for the cost of that. So as they come online, they would pay their prorated share of their drainage area that contributes to that pond. Another area that we're looking at an area assessment is down in the pond down there.
Barney?
Yes, Lake Barney. That one would have some benefit to the properties surrounding there, either through agricultural property, improvements for reduction in flooding, or being able to crop those lands again by lowering the groundwater table. So that's an area that we're taking some time to look at, how those areas would benefit and what their assessment would be for doing this improvement. We look at those areas, some of the older areas too. We're looking at assessments for some of the stormwater projects, like on there's a sump pump drainage issue up on, north of Pembroke up there. That one's going to have an assessment charge to them because, it's going to benefit them for the yard drainage and things like that. So we do look at it on a project-by-project basis on whether or not to assess them and what rate to assess them.
Thank you.
And I'll just make note for, looking at this, the jump from, specifically for the stormwater from 2022 to 2023 is over double.
Well, maybe the drought conditions will persist and it won't be so much in the public's eyes. We don't want that, but, okay. All right, then we'll call the vote. All in favor of approving Resolution R 118-21, adopting the 2022 through 2031 capital improvement plan, signify by saying aye.
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 I'm abstaining.
Okay, abstaining. Next, 7 Charlie, Resolution R 125-21, a resolution granting a stormwater easement to CERTCO within the Cannonball Trail Corridor. So CERTCO has their own stormwater drainage system, Bill? Would that be accurate?
Yes, they're going to be constructing a new pipe in their area and connecting it to our storm sewer, which is within the Cannonball Trail. They'll need an easement for maintenance for that connection that they're making.
So is it a connection from like their maintenance facility, that area over?
Yes, it's from the Cannonball Trail to the west, almost to Verona Road. They're going to be laying a new pipe in that area to pick up the drainage for that area. And like I said, it's the connecting piece within our easement that we're requesting an easement from them, or from us.
And we have jurisdiction over the Cannonball Trail corridor, so that's why it's requested.
Correct.
Okay. Board, have any questions?
Yeah, I'd like to say, move the resolution R-125-21. You didn't do that.
Okay. Moved by Wilborn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Gronetsky. All right. Any more discussion? Call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 125-21, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, I believe we're at 7 Gulf, Resolution R 131-21, a resolution approving payment to MG&E to McKee Road Utility reconstruction. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
We have a second.
Second.
Second by Granetsky. So, here, this was mostly, the majority of this is the manhole at this, Seminole Highway, or where was the manhole at Seminole Highway and McKee Road? That had to be reconstructed to maintain the road grade. That's the bulk of this cost, Bill?
Correct,
The vault.
yes.
No, I had another question Kim and I were discussing. It says it's a high-voltage vault. There's a 69 kV power line that goes underneath McKee Road from the Fitchburg substation all the way to the other end of, across Fish Hatchery. And we paid to have the lines buried there a number of years ago. Is this that same manhole? It said high voltage. I thought American Transmission Company would own that, not MG&E. Struck me kind of odd.
That's the one right in the middle of the road, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, American Transmission Company owns those lines. I was surprised that this bill was coming from MG&E. Are you aware of any? It just struck me odd, I have kind of some unique knowledge of that. Yeah.
I think the easement that is still there is under MG&E's
Okay.
easement, and ATC is maintaining the lines in their easement.
Okay. Now, as I read through it, are you disappointed, as I am with MG&E, that they didn't try to identify a little earlier in the process some of these things? It said they weren't going to do anything, and if we found a conflict, then they would address it. Is that typical? If we would have known that earlier on, I think you would have designed that intersection differently.
Yeah, there are a number of things that, through the process of the design, that could have gone better, from utility locates to more accurate information from utilities to, the designer, double checking things, to the city making sure that, things are in line, to the property acquisition person making sure the appraisals and the title searches included or didn't include this information. There's a number of things that, could have been checked off over the process that didn't get checked off. But in the end, the bid was awarded. We were a month into construction, and we just couldn't redesign the entire intersection around this one manhole.
Yep. I was there virtually, when I was home in the summer, every day I walked over and I saw this going on. I'm not happy with MG&E about this. I feel they cost our city a lot of money by not being a good partner in this. Bill, can you highlight how we are paying for paying for this extra cost?
We do have a contingency available within the Wisconsin DOT contract that we have, that we're going to be paying for a portion of this. We also have proceeds that were contributed by Dane County, $550,000 for their share of the project that we can use for this project. So we do have funding available within the Capital Improvement Fund and the TID 6 fund.
Okay. Any other questions? Jim? Anything? Okay. Michael, Kim?
No, I guess I just agree that there probably were things in hindsight, maybe you could, lessons learned from this that, moving forward, you can try to avoid some of those issues down the road.
It seems to be with Madison Gas, it's hard to avoid them though. Macy Road was done up there, they come with a pile of
I
extras.
think they're trying to recoup the amount we beat them down on there a little bit. But, like I say, I'm not happy. Bill would have, we would have designed that intersection differently and not incurred those costs had they highlighted that to us early on. That's really disappointing to a company that, feeds, supplies all of our city, and our residents, that they, our residents get pounded for that. Okay. Well, we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 13121, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Motion carries. Next, Resolution R 13221, authorizing acceptance of 2021 street and path improvement bid. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
We have a second.
No, second.
Second by, moved by Lobdell, second by Wheeler. This showed us all the streets and paths, you know, that are planned. Thank you, the packet was very complete. I will add, okay, that that South Sain Road repavement is on here, okay? And I'm not in favor of spending the money to repave it, you know, unless we're combining our work at the same time. It costs our residents too much money, and so this is a sticking point with what our earlier decision. Any other questions for Bill on these bids? Again, Bill, thank you. The material provided was very thorough, showing the lines, the sections and the cross sections and everything.
The bids came in under engineer's estimate, so you considered this a good bid. If for some reason South Sain Road project does not go, do you have any idea what proportion of this bid that is? Are you gonna get into major quantity where you might have to renegotiate unit prices, or is it not, will you not even be near major quantity?
It is a significant quantity for this project. I don't have that percentage. I know it's probably over 40% of the project, maybe more.
Yeah.
Okay, then I think according to your standard specs, they might have the option to come back and renegotiate unit prices if you accept this and then delete out that portion of it.
I agree. This is the,
You mean accept it with the opposite, that they come back and deal with us on taking that out? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they have the right to, they may not,
they may not, yeah.
but they
No,
may.
It won't hurt to try.
Well, we'll see what council does first, then we can deal. I'm inclined to approve as is.
Based on the information we have right now, I think that's.
It's a good bid. I feel it's a good bid, and a lot of work done. Okay. Jim, anything? Okay. Let's call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 132-21, signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Last, Resolution R 133-21, a resolution approving Amendment 3 for the Strand Associates McKee Road design contract. Do we have a motion to approve this resolution?
I so move we approve resolution R-133-21.
Moved by Wilborn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Granetsky. Again, similar to the previous discussion, was this by Commerce Park Drive there, or was it by the bike bridge, the gas main that was required? How was it resolved? Did we have to move the gas main? I kind of missed
Yeah,
what the resolution was.
Essentially what happened was, during the design of the project and after it was bid, we did some field locates out there to find exactly where the high pressure, it's the 12-inch gas main out there. It feeds the, I think it was the UW system. So to relocate that gas main, MG&E was estimating that it was $750,000 to relocate around our storm sewer. They were not in an easement, so by rights, they were required to relocate. They asked if we could explore redesigning our storm sewer in lieu of the relocation of the gas main. So the $30,000 that you see for the bill there is for the redesign of that storm sewer to go over the gas main. So we had to use a larger, flatter pipe to get over the gas main instead of going right through it. And so then MG&E also agreed to pay for the incremental cost of the storm sewer, the actual construction of that, which ended up being around $80-some thousand. So in total, about $112,000 MG&E is going to reimburse us for that relocation.
Good for you, Bill.
So MG&E is reimbursing you for the engineering design costs also? That's
Yep.
hand them over to Barrel there, you know, like they had us at the other.
110 compared to 750.
Yeah, I know,
It was a pretty easy decision.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions on this one? Okay. All in favor of resolution R 133-21, signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Next Board of Public Works meeting to be determined. So it looks like that would be Monday, the July 19th. Does that sound right, Bill? If we need a special session, I think the board is amenable to if we had to have one.
Yeah, I don't think, unless we were going to do something with this project, the council won't be able to take any action on it if it's delayed until July 28th or so.
And it falls out.
27th. So we've got, you know, you can either have a meeting in there in between, or the 19th would, no, the council's not gonna take any action until the 19th, between now and the 19th.
Okay. I'll take it under advisement. Okay. Yeah, before we go, thank you, Tracy, for coming. I appreciate your critical analysis on all these things. You were right on. You know, things you repeated again and again, you know, they kept taking exception to it. But thank you for remaining calm and presenting the facts. We appreciate your professionalism. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Adjourn.
Moved by Wheeler. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Lobdell. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned.
Boom.